What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the 10 worst tourist scams in London. Very specific, but very interesting. Luckily, just based on where I've lived my whole life, I haven't spent a lot of time living in major cities, traveling to major cities, but I am familiar with the concept of a scam or something, usually involving someone trying to take something from you or sell something to you in a major city. It's very annoying and at times pretty malicious, honestly, depending on exactly how they're trying to scam you. I know there's people in New York City who will walk by you and pretend to drop something like a watch or a water bottle or whatever. And then if you pick it up and like you're being helpful and nice, you pick it up and say, "Oh, you dropped this." They'll try to sell you it. They'll be like, "Oh, you're touching the watch. That means you want it. You want to buy it, right? You want it." And they'll get really aggressive and try to sell you stuff by making you touch it because you're trying to help. Anyway, I don't know if that's the type of scams we're talking about here, but if this is the 10 worst tourist scams in London, I'm sure this is going to be pretty interesting nonetheless. So let's take a look.
Common tourist scams in London. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions. I do travel guides that are fun, informative, and entertaining, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you some common scams that often target tourists in London. This is part of my series on London. If you want to see more videos about London, like things to know and cheap eats, you'll find links at the end or in the description below.
I like how he specifies that these are tourist scams, because that is a very particular thing. They're targeting people who are visiting and they don't know any better. They're going to make mistakes and talk to people more than a local would. They're going to fall for things that a local wouldn't normally go for. So I am familiar with targeting tourists in particular with scams and stuff.
But let me tell you how important this is. Actually, a couple of these scams I was the target of. Actually, some of my stuff was stolen, my video camera and things like that. And so if you're watching this and you're like, "Chris, this video's kind of shaky, the audio's not as good," well, that's because my main camera was actually stolen 2 days ago, and I recorded a similar version of this video, but with less of this.
Wait, what? That's such a weird coincidence. Although, you know, getting your stuff stolen is not really a scam. Maybe it's the most straightforward scam of all time. I'm going to steal your things while you're not looking. That's, I guess that's technically maybe a scam, not really.
This personal experience of the thievery, and so I'm going to be talking about scams first, things that will rob you of your hard-earned money, and then I'm going to be talking about thievery and tell you my experience of having my stuff stolen here in London. Common tourist scam number one. This is something that will happen to you if you're using a foreign credit card or foreign debit card. It happened to us as soon as we got here to the airport, and I'll start with the ATM use case and then tell you about the point of sale use case. So the ATM use case for this currency conversion happens when you go to an ATM and you use your foreign card, you put your card in, you go to withdraw some money, then the ATM will kindly offer to you to withdraw it in your local currency instead of Great British pounds. So in my case, the ATM came up with a message and says, "Hey, instead of withdrawing 300 Great British pounds, the ATM could withdraw US dollars for you, and then you don't have to pay that foreign conversion fee that your bank will charge. And for the convenience of this, we're just going to charge you 12%. Now, most banks charge somewhere between 1 and 3% for foreign conversion. To give you an example,
This is interesting, but he's talking about an ATM, a machine. Is he saying that there's an entirely replicated ATM that scammers put there to rob you of your money by offering this conversion? Or I think he's saying this is just, if you go to a normal ATM in London, just the bank that owns the ATM will put an option on it where it asks a tourist like me, "Hey, do you want to withdraw it in American currency?" And because of my lack of knowledge, I might choose yes. And it's going to end up charging me more money than I would have saved. So actually, it's honestly the bank. it's the bank kind of scamming you for not knowing better.
I pushed no and took out the money as Great British pounds. 300 Great British pounds in US dollars was 362 US dollars. Great British pounds, the offer for the ATM in US dollars was 410. So just by pushing yes and accepting this offer, I would have been scammed out of $50.
Wow. So that is just a bank. Bank being a bank and trying to exploit like a little gap of knowledge. That is that is not good. That is kind of sick, kind of exploitative, but definitely a good example of a scam that I never would have thought of. Wow.
So if you're at an ATM, make sure you do not select the currency conversion. Same thing happens at point of sale terminals. So if you're at Harrods or you're at Selfridges or high-end department stores, you will see these same things. You'll put your credit card in and it will come up and offer, hey, do you want to make this purchase in Great British pounds or your local currency? Here's a picture of actually what it looks like. And at Selfridges, when we told the staff, hey, we weren't interested in the currency conversion, we wanted Great British pounds, then the lady says, well, you know what? Selfridges really recommends that you take it out in your local currency. You know why they really recommend it? Because they make a lot of money on those currency conversions.
Oh, wow. Even the employees are told to heavily recommend the currency conversion. I could absolutely see this fooling a lot of people. This could fool so many tourists in a day over the course of a year that it could make the bank like millions of dollars a year. There's that many people going in and out of London. So I could absolutely see this being a thing. Wow.
And you might just be pushing yes because you think that's what you have to do to make the purchase. And actually on these point of sale terminals, to say no to the currency conversion, you generally have to put the red cancel button, which makes it seem like you're canceling your transaction. In fact, you're just saying no to this lousy offer.
Wow, that's really specific. I feel like I'm actually getting a real tip here. Really specific stuff. I like that.
Okay, this one's called the newspaper distraction. This happens when you're seated outside at a restaurant or a cafe. Actually, it could happen inside. Anytime you're seated at a table and you've got your valuable items in front of you on the table like a cell phone. What happens is some friendly stranger comes up, they sit down at your table and they put their newspaper on top of the table and they start asking you, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? You kind of brush them off because you're not really interested in talking to them, or you are interested in talking to them, but when they leave, they pick up their newspaper and your stuff. So if anybody...
Wow. That is why, it's it's good that by default I'm a little skeptical of people in general, just like my personality. But especially, people I've never met, random people. Especially in a city like this, I feel like my instinct when someone, at least definitely now, if I wasn't already paranoid enough, now I'm going to be thinking of if a stranger comes up to you in a foreign city or any city, and it's just kind of not making a lot of sense and just talking about something really random like a newspaper or buying their newspaper or anything, that should be a red flag in your mind that something is strange here. If people just coming up wanting to talk to you about stuff in cities, because usually people pretty much keep to themselves and don't do that kind of thing unless they're up to something. Maybe. This just validates every paranoia I've ever had about people putting newspaper on my stuff.
Comes to your table and puts down a newspaper, you should be concerned and make sure you didn't have anything that was under it. Maybe say, hey.
Just swat the newspaper away. Just grab the newspaper and chuck it across the street. And it'll turn out that they were actually being friendly. And the one time they were genuinely just being friendly, and they'll be like, why'd you throw my newspaper across the street? And then you're just in an awkward situation, but maybe it's better safe than sorry.
Hey, right. Or actually, better yet, don't put your phone on your table and let it sit there, because when people see valuables in London, unfortunately it's a target for them and they would like to take it away from you. This one happens particularly on the tube with the rise in contactless card use to enter the tube, meaning you don't just have to enter with your Oyster card, but you can actually enter the tube or the London Underground or the subway with a contactless Visa card. So because people do that, then there are people who will come up alongside you, they'll watch you use your contactless card and put it in your pocket. They'll brush up against your side with a contactless card reader and skim your card, and then use your card to buy things. The contactless card limit.
What? Oh no. No! This is some kind of weird fear that I didn't even have. This is giving me new fears. This is not good. I didn't know the technology was there yet. I've heard of skimmers that people put onto ATMs permanently that will scan your card. When you scan it, it'll go into their thing that's on top of it and read your card, and they'll have your info. But people walking up next to you, brushing their little scanner on your pant leg or something. I've never heard of that. That is interesting. That's really interesting. Oh no, whole new fear unlocked.
Is only 30 pounds, and so it's not a lot of money, but the way you can prevent that is using some RFID blocking sleeves, or get an Oyster card that doesn't have that much money on it, and don't carry your contactless cards with you. I have no contactless credit cards in my wallet.
RFID blocking sleeves? Oh no, I don't know if I'm quite there yet, where I need to buy special clothing to block, like, the signal so no one can scan my body. You know, if it happened to me once, then my lesson would be learned. I'd buy the high-tech clothing that shields you from this, but not yet. I'm not quite that far gone yet, but maybe one day.
Beware of pedicabs and rickshaws, particularly around Covent Garden. Why? The rickshaws and the pedicabs, they're basically unregulated. They sit around waiting to prey on tourists, people who don't.
What on earth is a pedicab and rickshaw? Do people understand these words? I don't understand. Rickshaw? What is that? Oh, it's a guy on a bike pulling you in a little carriage. Or a little tiny cart with 3 wheels. Okay. We don't have these in the United States very often. I guess I understand. Rickshaw, never heard of that. Pedicab, is that like a tiny cab? Okay, so avoid these, or what was he saying? I don't even know what we were talking about. Now at least I understand what we're talking about.
Of pedicabs and rickshaws, particularly around Covent Garden. Why? The rickshaws and the pedicabs, they're basically unregulated. They sit around waiting to prey on tourists, people who don't speak English very well. There is no set rate for a pedicab or rickshaw in London, so they can charge you as much as they want to. That 5-minute ride might end up costing you 50 Great British pounds. If you are going to take a pedicab.
Okay, yeah, I think this is very common in United States cities. Our criminals aren't smart enough to do a lot of these more elaborate types of scams, or I'm sure some do. But they're more willing to just be aggressive, as in offer you a ride on the rickshaw, bike you around town, and then they have no problem being like, all right, that was $100. And they'll make you really uncomfortable until you do pay. So that sounds exactly like what he's talking about. People who are just willing to make you uncomfortable unless you pay their price for whatever they got you, whatever service they got you to do. So you got to watch out for that. Okay. That's more of a scam I'm familiar with.
Make sure you negotiate the price up front and be pretty firm about it. I mean, if I were you, I would just walk or take a taxi and avoid the pedicabs entirely. Beware of where you buy your hop-on, hop-off bus tickets. The problem with this is a lot of hop-on, hop-off bus tickets are sold by people on the street, but they might not actually be the people that work for the company. They might just be selling you tickets and their own tickets, and when you get on the bus, they're not the tickets for the bus. The bus driver goes, what the heck is this? So if you want to do a hop-on, hop-off bus tour, the best place to buy them is an actual physical location.
I could see this working really well on tourists, because tourists don't know any better. They are too trusting. The little tourist, he's too trusting. Anybody who's selling a ticket for the hop-on, hop-off bus, they just assume it's official and buy it. I get this. You gotta go in with a little bit of skepticism, unfortunately, in this day and age.
physical location probably legit, because if it's not, you can come back to them and be like, dude, what'd you sell me? Be careful of people who are too friendly and too helpful in train stations. A common scam is people helping you at a ticket machine or a parking machine where you have to use your credit card or money, and they might be helping themselves out with your wallet while they're distracting you on the machine. If they're not helping themselves to your wallet, they may be helping themselves to your ATM or your debit card, where you have to put in the machine, you put in your PIN card. They'll be watching as you put in your PIN number, and then they'll distract you somehow.
You know, it's sad that a lot of these scams are essentially based on exploiting the goodwill of people. Like, you're pretending to help someone, scam them. You're pretending to sell them something, scam them. You're just pretending to do nice, normal things, and then you're just robbing people. It's sad that that is essentially the building blocks of a good scam, unfortunately.
And while they do that, they'll take your debit card and pocket it for themselves and tell you that, oh, well, the machine ate your card. You should also beware of people on the street selling you theater tickets. There's a lot of theater shows in London, and particularly in the theater district, people approach you with discount tickets. They're half price, they're VIP tickets. Don't buy theater tickets from anybody on the street. Buy them from the TKTS booth, which is in Leicester Square, or from the actual theaters. Now, you might be saying, but Chris, what if I get a really good deal? You know what? Really good deals are usually too good to be true. And sometimes...
Oh, no. Man, we don't even live in a day and age where you can have an honest-to-goodness transaction, a good deal. The guy with the big coat who opens up his big coat and has a bunch of tickets inside. Here, I got the best deals in town for you. You can't even have that anymore. We just can't have nice stuff because everyone's trying to scam you. But at least if you happen to watch this YouTube video, then you'll be aware. Basically, the rule of thumb is don't trust anyone. You go there with your husband or wife, and all of a sudden you don't trust them either. They could be scamming you, playing the long game, bringing you to London to scam you, and then running away. And you're like, oh, that was a big investment on their part to scam me. We've been together 23 years just for you to steal $16, but okay.
The other ticket vendors, they might tell you things like, well, these are VIP tickets or they're special tickets, and it turns out they're really not that VIP. Beware of fake designer goods in street markets. London has a lot of street markets. Camden Market in particular is one of them. If you find designer goods that are really cheap, like that Louis Vuitton handbag that's 50% off, chances are it's not a real Louis Vuitton handbag. Also, something that happens in...
Yeah, okay. This is just classic counterfeiting. Counterfeit stuff. Bags, coats, stuff, designer stuff. Pretty common. You'd find this anywhere in the world. But yeah, it is good tip nonetheless.
These street markets are fake auctions. You'll be walking by and a bunch of people will be bidding on something. But it's not really a real auction. They're just trying to get excitement up so that they hope you bid on it too, and you don't pay attention to the fact that it's actually not the real article, but it's a Louis Vuitton purse and it's 20 pounds. You want to get that, right? Well, you will be scammed.
A fake auction. I almost would appreciate the effort involved in that one. There's a performance element to it. A whole fake auction, a fake auctioneer, you got a couple people pretending to bid on it. I almost respect that con a little better, although I don't respect any of it. But that one, if they got me, at least I'd be like, okay, they ruined my vacation, but they put a little effort into robbing me, at least. Huh, fake... That's one I may not have been able to detect very easily. A fake auction. Wow.
Why? Because you've seen this video. Okay, so we're back in the hotel so you can hear me well because this one is important. A common tourist scam, whether this is a scam or illegal, well, I mean, it's both, is theft. Pickpocketing, theft, and so we'll start with pickpockets.
The most classic scam of all time. Taking your stuff that does not belong to them.
Pickpocketing is super prevalent in London. Pickpocketing wallets, pickpocketing things out of your bags. You really need to be careful to make sure you know where your things are and you don't have any things that say, rob me immediately. You can buy these anti-theft bags.
That's probably true that people who are going to try to pickpocket and steal and scam you, they're probably looking for people who look like easy targets. So, don't be an easy target. Just have spikes all over your clothes or something.
I like bags from PacSafe. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. I've had these bags for like nearly 20 years, and they've never been pickpocketed from the bag. Though in this case, my bag was stolen entirely. But we can talk about solutions about how to solve that. Another type of theft is moped theft. And so what happens here is you'll be standing around and you'll be using your cell phone. And when you're using your cell phone on the street, on the sidewalk, somebody will come up on a moped. It's often two people on the moped. One person's driving it, the second person's on the back. The second person is just there to grab your phone out of your hands as they continue to go by on the moped.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. That makes so much sense. That's so easy to do, too. You're probably not gripping your phone that hard. They just come, grab it, and drive off on their little moped. Yeah, you don't see too many mopeds in America. And we call them scooters a lot. But, I could totally see that being really annoying and really effective.
And yes, you saw who did it, but you can't chase after them because they're already gone by the time you've composed yourself. So if you are standing around and you're looking at your phone, maybe stand by the wall, don't have your phone out. If you like to talk on your phone a lot, maybe use some wireless earbuds and keep your phones in your pocket. There have been signs across the city to...
Oh, it'd be so satisfying to have your phone like glued to your hand or something, and then they try to grab it. And you just grab them, and you're like, oh, now who's robbing who? I'm robbing your entire body. You grab them and just yank them off the moped. Although at that point, they haven't done anything to you, and you're committing, like, assault on them, so probably not a good idea, but it would definitely freak them out and probably make them not try to rob you. That's all I'm saying.
Warn people about moped thefts that have happened in that area. You can imagine if they do it for your phone, they do it for your bag as well. And so if you're walking, try to put your bag, if you have a shoulder bag, on the side that's away from the street, not towards the street. All right, so I talked about pickpockets, I talked about moped theft, and now what happened to me? They just stole my entire bag. So OC Girl, my wife and I, we were eating at this restaurant called Mother Mash. It's near, kind of between Piccadilly Circus and Oxford Circus. We were seated outside, but our table was right next to the building of the restaurant. It was about 7:45 in the evening. We had just sat down to eat. I had a big shopping bag of some stuff, and I had my camera bag, and I put it just to the left of my leg on the floor in eyesight so that when I'm looking at the table, I can see my bag just down here. And I'm like, well...
So he didn't even do that bad of a job placing his bag. And someone still ran up and just yoinked it and ran?
It's between my left leg and the wall, so this is a pretty good place for my bag. Well, between the time I put my bag there and 5 minutes later, my bag was gone. I looked down. I went to actually take out Topher to take a picture of Topher and realized that Topher, my lovely traveling panda, was gone along with my camera and everything that was in the bag. They left the big shopping bag there because that was too...
Huh. Wow, they actually got it without him noticing. That would feel so bad. That would be the worst feeling ever. Just looking down and your stuff is gone. And you kind of know. It was just done right there in front of you. You weren't even aware. You'd feel violated. It'd just feel bad. But this probably happens every day, all the time. Wow.
Too big for them to get out, but my camera bag that I had on top of it, that was gone. Now, I mentioned it was in my eyesight. What happened? Well, at some point, the bag's right down here that I can see it. At some point, the waitress comes to take my order, and now I'm looking over here at the waitress who's taking my order. I guarantee that is when that bag disappeared. Didn't see it, didn't notice it, but as soon as I noticed it, there were some people who said, yeah, there was somebody behind you. He went that way, but we didn't.
Oh, it's also creepy knowing that someone was watching him, waiting for him to turn his head away. They singled him out, they were watching him, and they made a plan to steal his stuff. It's an uncomfortable feeling.
didn't notice that he took anything. There were people sitting at a table just to the next of us who were actually kind of like at a counter looking at us. They didn't see anything. I mean, it was one of those where I like to consider myself a pretty savvy traveler, and this was one where this person was good. Now, that doesn't mean
Huh.
it's okay. It really sucks, and I hate them for doing it. And so, what should I have done better, and what could you have done better? Well, I mentioned I carry
It'd be kind of funny if your bag was attached to your ankle, like by a leash or something. Oh man, they pull on your bag to steal it, and it's like tied around your leg, and then they just are pulling on your leg, and you're like, "Yeah, what are you doing down there? What do you got? You got my bag down there?" And they're just totally exposed. Then they probably run off, but it'd be satisfying a little bit.
this PacSafe MetroSafe bag. What I did wrong was it wasn't chained down. When we went to the police station to file a police report about it,
Yeah.
the taxi driver basically was like, "Yeah, anything in London now that's not chained down, it's basically gone." And the PacSafe bags,
What?
they're a shoulder bag and it has a strap that's designed to detach so you can loop it around something and then reconnect it again.
Exactly. So it was designed for that. Wow. Is this really such a common occurrence in London that people expect it? That people who live in London are would say, yeah, this is totally expected. You basically have to assume you're gonna need to secure your items or they're gonna get stolen. Is that just how it is now? That's crazy.
I should have looped that around the chair, and so that way, if they went to take it, it wouldn't go because the shoulder strap would be connected to the chair. Other
Yeah.
option, put your shoulder strap of your bag or your backpack like around your leg or the leg of the chair, or just I should have kept the bag on my lap, even though it's uncomfortable. I'm seated outside. If I had my arm looped through that shoulder strap, they would not have been able to take it the way they take, right? These
So basically, you need an entire mindset change when you go to a major city. London, for instance, it just has to be part of your normal behavior. You probably will stop even thinking about it. You'll just be second nature, where you just have your bags looped around your table or your leg or whatever, because you just have to do that by default.
these criminals, they don't do it by force. And I know in the video that I put out earlier where I talked about it as it happened, I said I was robbed, and it wasn't robbery because it wasn't at gunpoint and it wasn't at knife point. They don't want to be noticed. And so they're gone before I even noticed. And then when we called the police, what's there to do about it? Nothing. Oh, and a lot of people
Yeah.
said, "Hey, Chris, you should have looked in the trash cans or the dumpsters because the crook might have like thrown your bag in there." We actually spent about 30 or 45 minutes after the bag was stolen, kind of combing a 3 block radius, just going further and further out, looking in the trash cans and the dumpsters, hoping that the bag was there. In our case, it wasn't, but
Yeah.
there are
Yeah, this guy happened to steal a video cam, probably a pretty fancy video camera. So this thief was struck gold just by random chance.
many people that said they've been pickpocketed. Many of you fellow explorers that said when your bag was stolen, you were able to find it in a nearby dumpster. Because I'll say, I can replace the camera, but unfortunately, our good friend Topher is not as replaceable as those electronic items.
Oh
So
boy.
when you come to London, don't let your guard down. Don't think, you know what? This place seems pretty safe. I don't have to pay the same amount of attention to my stuff as I might in Italy or Paris because I look at those places and I know everybody's trying to rob me. But you know what? In
Oh
London,
boy.
everybody's trying to rob you here too. It's really unfortunate, but it
That is unfortunate. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I'm not naive. I totally expect this as well in any major city anywhere.
is the case. So please learn from me and don't be a victim yourself. Now, if you are planning to come to London, you might enjoy watching some of my other videos. You
Okay. Wow. That was kind of depressing in a way. This was by Yellow Productions. I gotta give that a like. This was very good. I really didn't think there were so many little scams I didn't know about. Some of these were, obvious. People are trying to steal your stuff. But some of these scams, with newspaper and uh, using high-tech scanners to scan your debit card in your pocket, that's just wild. Some of this stuff I'd never heard of. It was actually pretty useful, pretty good. So I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. London. London, what is wrong with you? What is going on there? No, I'm just kidding. Like he said, this definitely occurs in wherever there are lots of people. There will be some people trying to scam you, trying to take your stuff, especially where there's a lot of tourism. That's an important part of this. They try to exploit tourists who are out of their element and take advantage of that. So, unfortunate, but helpful to learn about it nonetheless. Anyway, if you found this video helpful and interesting as well, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to the UK, stuff in the UK, things that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.